I grew up. I didn't get into bodybuilding that early, so I'm only 32, but I grew up idolizing the old school guys. And Mentzer was what really attracted me about Mentzer is that he was just so freaking different. Like he was an outcast, and it was
Yeah, dude, from the start, right?
he was just so different, and that attracted me because I felt like an outcast in my life. So I grew up in Canada. I'm Latino though, so instantly I'm different than most other kids. I'm Jehovah's Witness. I don't celebrate Christmas, Thanksgiving, Halloween. I'm different. I like different stuff. My parents are different. So I always felt different and like an outcast. So I related to Mike Mentzer in that aspect that you got the Arnold and Tom Platz hanging out, and you got all those guys. And then you got Mike on the other end who's like, hey, I don't want to part. Well, I don't want to party in one sense, but he's like, I don't want to be the life of the party, this or that. I'm studying the books and finding out the science, finding out the research. Those guys are doing 4-hour workouts twice a day. Not me.
Yeah,
One
I'm gonna
like
do
a
40
quick,
minutes.
yep,
Yeah.
and so unorthodox. And he just didn't give a flying crap about what anybody thought about his training method. And he's like, listen, this works amazing. All of you are doing it wrong. Like I I look unreal, and I do think he probably should have won an Olympiad.
Like that's huge, right?
Yep.
That controversy and he boy, if there's one kind of knock I would give Mentzer, he he got so bitter after that
Yep.
perceived slight and robbery from the Mr. O and Arnold's comeback, right? Uh,
Yeah.
because that was kind of the beginning of the end for Mentzer. He essentially hung it up and he just got real bitter. And even Tom Platz talks about
Yep.
how bitter and angry Mentzer was
Yep.
just to even be around back in the early 80s in Golds and California over there. So he just yeah, that would be one thing that I would knock against Mentzer. He couldn't let it go, bro. But his training principles are alive and well today. And I mean, you remember the first thing I said to you when I saw you and you had just a stash going?
Yep. Yeah. The stash, the long hair.
Yeah, it was Metzer 2.0 all over
Yep.
again.
Yep.
It was, and it instantly, spoke to me, and I was like, this guy's all about classic era. I can tell,
Yep.
he
Yep.
wouldn't rock the Mentzer without being
Yep.
classic. And
Yep.
so, it's alive and well, and even you know I'll give credit where some credit is due. There's young kids that are following kind of Mentor protocols and Mentor things. He's found an audience with some of the younger crowd. But I mean, even Dorian Yates, though, right? I mean,
Of course.
he was a student of Mentor and his. I mean, maybe even Dorian Yates took it even further than Mentor.
Yep. Yep. Well, I believe Dorian at first took it the principles further, but then he noticed, and this was Mentor's problem in my opinion, right? Like we know, anything in bodybuilding, and to be honest, even in life, Matt, nothing's black and white. A lot of things are very gray area. A lot of things are going to work. Are you telling me that if Mentor trained like Arnold, he still wouldn't have an unreal physique? He
Right,
probably would.
right.
But clearly, we saw that he found that style of training. He enjoyed it. He liked it. He liked the results from it. They might have been slightly better than different methods, so he stuck with it. And I think that we should all be open to that. But sometimes we get so in our head, and that's what happened to Metzer. He saw, hey, this is working really well. So if, say, I'm just throwing something out there, say 4 sets for chest in total for the whole workout, every 3 days is what really makes my chest grow. I'm going to try 3 sets, and then I'm going to do 2 sets, and then I'm going to do 1 set. What if I do 1 set every 7 days? And there came a point from all the reading I've done that Mentzer believed in just training like, like it was like one set every 2 weeks or something like that. And sure, it was intense, but I feel like there comes a point of diminishing returns, right?
Right.
And he started getting diving so far away from that. Now that was after his bodybuilding career had really gone
Yes,
downhill
yes, yes,
after all that.
yes, yes, and maybe a little too much of uh drinking his own Kool-Aid
Of
type of
course,
thing, right?
of course. So I feel like he took it too far. And Dorian, from what I've heard, tried like just keep pushing the limit, but then he came a point where he's like, okay, I'm not getting enough of the volume in there. It doesn't mean I'm going to go to Arnold level, but I feel like I found a nice sweet spot that worked really well. I'm going to stick with that. And you're right, Matt. I mean, it started with Mentzer, to be honest, but we have disciples of Mentzer now. I mean, the guys that we see today training like Mentzer, Jordan Peters. I'm not sure how familiar you are with him. I'm a
Yeah,
huge fan of Jordan Peters, and under Jordan Peters, a lot of guys are coming up training like that, like a Justin Shire. You got guys like Kuba Chelin. You got guys like even James Hollingshead trained like
yeah,
that for a
yeah,
while.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah, 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 exactly.
Sasan came up with Jordan Peters. So these guys are building these world class physiques, and it works, man. It works. And from what I found from coaching so many years back, I'll be honest with you, the majority of average people with average genetics, if you want to maximize your physique, that's how you have to train. Mike Mentzer style, lower volume, higher frequency,
Short,
super high
intense.
intensity.
Yeah, yeah.
That works better for the majority of the population. An average guy,
Is it because it allows recovery to take place, and it fits into a lot of lifestyles as well too.
yep.
Yeah, explain a little more of the reasons
So
why.
so the reason I think why is because you got what they call, genetic freaks or hyper responders even when it comes to drugs. And what does that mean? All we do in the gym is you go in, you stimulate a muscle to grow, you tell it, hey, I need to grow. You go home, it grows. Some guys recover much quicker. Some guys can stimulate that muscle with not as much effort. I'm just throwing a random number out there. You might be able to get 10 reps with 100 pounds on X exercise. Well, maybe you are good enough to do only 7 or 8 reps. And for your specific body, your body's so good and genetically predisposed to building muscle that your body says, okay, this is good enough, Matt. Don't
Yeah,
worry about it.
I'm
You don't
done.
have to
I'll
go all the
run
way to
with
failure.
this. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then you grow. And then you just get bigger. And you get bigger. And you get bigger. Whereas other guys, like myself, it's like, well, you can do 10 reps, you stop at 9. Okay. Building muscle is not great in terms of our natural process as a human being. Muscle is very expensive. So we just don't gain as much muscle. Other guys will also, it's almost like you have to force the body to build more. At the end of the day, the main driver for hypertrophy is going to be strength. Get a muscle strong. Some guys don't necessarily have to go through that mechanism quite as intensely to get bigger. We see that perfect example with many bodybuilders that don't even train heavy. You saw Tony Freeman. I remember seeing him. He talks about not even dumbbell bench pressing more than 90 pounds, I
No,
believe it
no, no.
was.
Lightweight all the
And
time.
he's massive. So
Yeah.
you got the genetic freaks, which is a very small amount of the population. They train like that. Why would they ever need to change to the Mentzer protocol? If I can grow lifting light weights, not beating my body up as much, I would take that any day. The price to pay for the physique is much lower. But again, that's only a small amount of the population. And that's what you hear about. You think of Arnold. Arnold didn't lift overly heavy, and not for his size, trained a ton in the gym. You see Arnold training hard sometimes, but you don't see every set to absolute failure like
Right, right.
Mentzer.
Yeah.
And he grew well. So again, small amount of the population. Then you got, and the guys will say, well, look, the guys in the 70s would use the high volume and it worked for them. Those are the guys you hear about. They didn't have Instagram like that. You don't hear about all other poor suckers who wanted to be bodybuilders
Yeah.
and never made
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But nowadays we hear a lot more stories through social media, through fitness influencers. And now we see a lot of people who are like, hey, listen, like, I want to get big. Like, I'm trying this high volume stuff out. It's just not working. And I've seen it through my 10 years of coaching. I've seen it with myself. I've seen it with clients. Those people who are just very mediocre, they're doing everything. They're using the drugs. They're following the diet. They're training hard. And it's like you don't look like you should look. We go to a lower volume, lower volume, higher frequency, high intensity approach. Boom. Why is that?
Seems to kind of
Because
kick it off for them.
muscles recover a lot quicker than people think. You don't need 7 days to recover a muscle. So
No.
instantly we say, okay, we can train a muscle 2 to 3 times a week. Now, the other caveat to that is you can't destroy a muscle 2 to 3 times a week to the point where now you're just not recovering. So small amount of sets, just the right amount that's going to allow you week or session to session to get a little bit stronger, a little bit stronger, a little bit stronger. And I can promise you, if the mat that today can bench press 100 pounds for 10 to absolute failure, in 6 months, if that same mat with the same form can bench press 150 pounds for 10 to absolute failure, that's a mat with a much bigger chest, shoulders, and triceps.
Yeah. Yeah.
And results speak for themselves. Once you try the lower volume approach, you're going to say, okay, 6 months I did lower volume, 6 months I did high volume. All the other variables remain the same. I worked hard, I slept well, I recovered well. Where are the results? I can guarantee you that 80% of the people are going to find much better results with the Mike Mentzer style of approach when it comes to building muscle.
Now, what do you think of? So we do know that some bodybuilders are doing this and implementing this, right?
Yep.
And you just named a few. Now, flipping the switch, because I see a distinct difference between what I think of as bodybuilders, and maybe it's because, I'm an old man and that's what I think. But there's a difference between bodybuilders and the fitness influencers and like the David Lades or the is it Chris Eubanks?
Yep.
Um, these cats, right? Where it's certainly more about creating content than it is about the training, right?
Yep.
These guys take, and they'll disagree or that they'll deny, but they'll take PEDs
Yep.
and they will, you know, spend hours in the gym, but the majority of it is content creation
Yep.
with very, very little working out. Um,
Yep.
I thought it would be funny to even just to entertain how well do you think they would hold up under a Mike
Oh.
Mentzer style of training? And I say this because there is a straight up video of Sebum,
Mm-hmm.
and do you know the one where he's
No, I
training?
don't. I don't know which one.
You have to look it up where he's training with David Lade.
Okay.
And I'll add I'll add the famous clip here. But Sebum was surprised that Lade stopped his set, and he was like, "What are you doing? Uh,
Yep.
Too too light for you?" No, no, I'm saving myself for the rest of the workouts. I got to save my energy. We're doing other stuff. And the Sebum's just that's not how bodybuilding works. That's no. Yeah, you go to almost failure on each one. No.
Yep.
Oh well, so that's why you're small. I mean, seriously, David Lade, like the wind just went out of the poor kid's sails.
Yep.
He felt normal. He felt like like it wasn't David Lade. It was absolutely hysterical, and I honestly think that sums up that whole fitness influencer
Yep.
type of life, right? Whereas, but then the flip side is like the Sam Sulek, where he goes balls to the walls. He's a bodybuilder, and he just
Yep.
happens to film all of his shit and put it
Yep.
up on social media. And bingo bango, he blew up type of thing, right? But he was a bodybuilder first, then
Exactly.
dipped himself into the social media thing, And he's not trying to be nothing because he just has the camera there and he's just training and then he'll talk to
Yep, yep,
everybody, right? Like he's just talking
yep,
to a buddy type of thing. And he's not worried about mewing for the camera and how
yep.
the jaw is looking and all this stuff. He's
Yep,
just training because he's a bodybuilder. So
yep.
so there is a flip side to it, but boy, if there isn't a lot of the fitness influencers, how do you think they would fare under the Mike Mentzer
Oh man,
protocol?
they would die. Matt, listen, I get a lot of people who ask to train with me, and I used to train with a little bit more people. Um, now I'm kind of selfish with my training, but now what'll happen is I'll get a new client. They're a competitor, low amateur. That I'll ask them, okay, please send me a training video. Send me a video of you doing your squats. And this person could get 15 reps. They'll probably stop at 8. And I'm just like, was that a warm up set? I said, no, that was a work set. And I'm just like, oh, well, this explains why your legs don't grow. And I mean, I think they would be demolished. And I think the reason why, Matt, is the mindset. As you know, in bodybuilding, there's no money in bodybuilding unless you're the top five at the Olympia. And
Yep.
anybody who thinks they're going to be top five at the Olympia are usually delusional. Even some pro bodybuilders out there who think you're going to be a top five at the Olympia, you're delusional. That spot is saved for the top of the top. Now, anybody who does bodybuilding is because they are obsessed. Anybody who does bodybuilding properly is obsessed with progression and with their own personal self mastery, not with the money, not with the supplements, not with the girls and the
The
fame.
fame. Yep. Yep.
You have to do it for your self mastery, and I think this is where the influencers lack. It's like, dude, when you go into a bar and you're dieting and you're lean and you got veins and abs, buddy, and you got a 500-pound bar and you're going for 5 or 6 reps, like it feels like death. Like it really does. So what does it take to push past those limits and levels? You thinking like I am like I'm either gonna die or I'm gonna be a better person after this.
Right. Right. Right.
One
Yeah.
of the
There,
two.
there is no in between.
No.
No.
Whereas as an influencer, you're obsessed with the likes and the fame and the Insta fame. So with that, you don't have that drive. You're not thinking in the middle of that 500-pound squat, like, okay, if I get this rep, I'm going to be more famous on Instagram. You don't care about that.
No. No.
So
No. You just hope you live.
yeah.
You know?
So
So,
with that, it's almost like they don't have that intense passion and love
yeah.
for just personal self mastery where you don't expect anything from it, whereas the influencers do. And I get it. Like I understand it's something completely different. Um, but man, if they were to train, like sometimes the odd time that I'll get somebody to train with me, even other competitors, they're dying. And I was actually telling my wife, hey, anybody out there listening to this, if you're bigger than me and stronger, I'd love to train. Bury me. I want to meet somebody who buries me.
Right.
I want to meet somebody that I train with where I leave that workout like Jesus Christ, man. Like I thought I was gonna die. And
I've got a story for you. I've got a story for you. So
okay,
so um Ben Pakulski
I
and
was gonna bring him up. It's funny you said, but I
no
want to hear
way.
it.
So Ben Pack and I my buddy Dino, right? Big Val.
Okay,
We were um Dino was visiting, I think he was in for the Toronto Pro Super
okay.
Show. And Muscle Insider brought him in for I think the cage in the animal booth or something. I think that's what it was.
But you're
So
freaking telling me about the good old days. Jesus,
I
what
know,
happened to
I
these
know, I
days?
know, I know. So anyways, we I think Val set it up where we met up with Ben and we went to what the hell was the gym? Was it
Olympia, probably either
Olympia?
Olympia.
Olympia Gym. Olympia
Yeah,
Gym. We went to Olympia Gym. And and Ben put Dino through a leg workout. Okay.
that'd be my dream, man. Oh my god.
And well, I or your wife would need to be there with you because because yeah, after the workout, bro. All right. I mean, Dino was barely walking, but few hours later, when we went back to his hotel room,
Yep.
because we had to get ready and changed and go
Mhm.
out. Um, he literally needed me to put put his socks on,
Really?
put his pants on. Yeah,
Oh
yeah,
my
dude,
God.
he couldn't bend over. It was he couldn't tie his shoes. I had to put his shoes on, and
Oh
man,
man.
he thought he was gonna die. He thought he was gonna die.
Well, Matt, I've heard, bro. So I'm a huge fan of Ben Pakulski. You know, I'm just respectfully, like I'm not as a bodybuilder, as an educator in the way he thinks. He is an extremely intelligent human being. He was the first guy out there teaching people in the masses selflessly about execution. Nobody else was teaching execution in the early 2010s
No,
except for Ben.
no.
And he was releasing YouTube content about, I'm talking material worth thousands of dollars
Yeah, yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
that he was teaching concepts that a pro bodybuilder would do. Whereas everybody else you saw was just this is how you do a dumbbell row. Boom, 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 boom. Ben is teaching like anatomy and this is how the humerus works. And I learned so much from that. So I've listened to everything Ben. I would love to meet Ben one day. And oh my God, doing a workout would be crazy. But I remember him saying that for a while in Toronto, his leg workouts were over 2 hours. He had two partners for leg days. The first hour, one guy would show up, he would destroy him.
Right.
And then the second hour, another guy would show up, the guy would be done his workout. Okay, this is Ben's second half of the workout.
Yeah,
And then he would
yeah,
destroy him.
yeah. Can you even fathom that?
Body. And that's the kind of intensity I always strive for. But again, goes to show you why did Ben do that? Ben wasn't doing that for the fame or the likes or just that obsession with self mastery and being a great
Yeah,
bodybuilder.
yeah. And that's where I think you're right. I mean, that's just what the fitness influencers don't necessarily have, you know.
Mm-hmm.
They or I mean, they've got the passion for the fame aspect that they can get out of it and the
Yep.
the the monetary aspect that is phenomenal,
Yep.
that they can get out of it,
Yep.
because brands just latch onto them and
Yep.
just lavish them with
Of
with uh,
course.
with, with everything, right? So
Of course.
one, how can you blame them?
Yep.
But for if I can call myself a purist, it lacks the passion of the bodybuilding,
Of
which
course.
which is something that I'd like to kind of bring back into the sport, and
And that's what makes you successful at anything in life. That passion and drive for those moments where you want to quit anything. It could be your business, your marriage, your friendship. When you want to quit, if you don't have that passion and love for it and discipline to say, hey, listen, things are not great right now. Things suck right now. I don't like this. Man, I've had periods of months where I don't like bodybuilding, where the alarm rings at 5 in the morning and I don't want to go train. I get
yep,
to the gym, I don't like it. I feel miserable. Where it could be, it's usually at the end of off season where I burn myself out so hard. I'm eating so much food, but I tell myself I cannot quit because I will regret it when I start loving it again. A few weeks or months later, you start loving it again. You're like, wow, I can't believe I looked this way. I'm
yeah,
so happy I never quit. And that's what a lot of guys need to remember. And a lot of these influencers don't do that. And I also think another aspect is PEDs, Matt. With PEDs now, so many new peptides and drugs, and so much information out there on drugs. People have lost the main driver of everything. The heart of everything in developing a great physique is your training. It's not a diet, it's not PEDs, is your training. Nowadays, coaches literally. So I was just listening to a podcast with John. He just coached Sean Clarita for that second place finish, and
yeah.
Sean looked his best ever. And
So he was in the open, right? Or
212, 212.
the 212. Okay, you're talking about the not when
Yeah,
he
yeah,
was down to Mexico. Okay, gotcha.
yeah, yeah. So the 212 Mr. And Sean was prior to that, he was with other coaches. Since John Meadows died, Sean has not really changed his training protocols. Why? because these top coaches, they don't focus on training. They just like, oh, whatever, do whatever you want. Whereas John Jewett comes in, and he's like, what? Stefan didn't give you a training program. He's like, no, he would just kind of say like, do this, do that. It's like, man, like training is the driver for everything. So John Jewett like makes a specific program for Sean to be able to specifically recover from exercises that he needs for his physique. And when you pay attention to the training, not only programming, which is an art in itself, but execution and intensity and zoning in on exact stress under a specific muscle, that's when you really develop the physique. But I feel like training in the last 15, 20 years has been put on the back burner because guys would train hard in the 90s and prior to that. Guys trained hard in the early 2000s. But then all of a sudden, a lot more science started coming out on diets and drugs and peptides. So then you go through the phase of, do macros, do keto, do carnivore, do paleo. And everybody's focusing on the diet or everybody's focusing on the magical drug stack. How come we're not talking about training? And training's kind of on the back burner. Oh, whatever. Just
because you can make up for everything with if it fits your macros or the proper protocols.
So it's just like when you talk to the top coaches, okay, what's the training program? Do 3 sets of bench, 8 to 12 reps, 3 sets of dumbbell, 8 to 12 reps.
But most importantly, here's your
drug stack.
Yeah.
Buddy, so when you start obsessing about training, everything else falls into place, man. Everything. The guy that couldn't get lean before, I don't know why, I'm doing 2 hours of cardio a day, can't get shredded eating no carbs. He starts training hard all of a sudden. He used to think he could train hard. Now he's brought up his training intensity by 30%. And now he actually focuses on zoning in on a muscle. And now he quits all the cable work he was doing and machine work, starts doing barbell squats and deadlifts.
Right.
What happens all of a sudden? The metabolism is on fire. All of a sudden, this guy, leaner than he's ever been, doing less cardio than he ever has, eating more carbs than he ever has. Why? Because he's giving the body that initial stimulus from the heart, which is training. And that's where PEDs get me, man. Like, they work, man. We all know they work. If they didn't work, they wouldn't be elite. If they didn't work, guys wouldn't be using them.
Yeah, right.
But the heart of everything is training. And that's something that I really feel I stress to clients because it's something that I still see nowadays on the back burner of the majority of people. Bodybuilding, the training part, do whatever you want, man. Go hit some shoulders. You know what I mean? It's not like that, man. And I think that's what's brought my physique to be where I am today, to be a national level competitor. Because I don't have the genetics. I don't have these blessed genetics. But yet, now that my physique looks this way, people are starting to say, "Oh yeah, you were made for bodybuilding."
Right.
You got the genetics. It's like, no, you don't understand.
No. You have no idea. I'm so not made for it. But the mindset is made for it.
For sure.
And so that's going to be making up for everything because I'm going to outwork and out hustle everybody else. I'm going to work harder than everybody else. Mm-hmm. And then everything else is just going to be happenstance, the PEDs. Well, they're PEDs, so of course they're going to work. So they're going to augment the hard ass training that I'm putting myself through, type of thing. The proper dieting, that's going to be a cherry on top of this amazing focus on training that I'm implementing, type of thing.
Exactly, and that's what these influencers do. So you get a 150-pound guy that's skinny. He takes some gear. All of a sudden, he's 165, 170.
Yeah.
Train a lot of chest, train a lot of shoulders. He's lean. He looks good. Use a little bit of filters on Instagram. You got a good pump at the gym. Now you look good. You look at what other guys want to look like you, and girls want to be with you. All of a sudden, now you become famous. Do you have to train that hard to be $160, $170 lean? You don't have to kill yourself in the gym for that.
No.
You can make up with steroids for it, with PEDs. And it takes a little bit of luck and proper, social media handling. And all of a sudden, you're an influencer.
You got sponsorships and you're an influencer now.
So this new generation, they don't want to be bodybuilders. This new generation, they want to be influencers. So they don't care about the training aspect. They're like, okay, like I just got to show up to the gym friggin' do a few little cable curls or cable laterals. And so, what's my drug stack, coach?
Yeah,
It's like whoa,
yeah,
whoa,
yeah,
whoa, whoa,
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and now, Matt, like, before it was just basic androgens, right? That was pretty much the only drug class. Before it's like, okay, you got your test, your D-ball, your animal, whatever. But now things are getting complex. You got your androgens, which is going to be the main part of the cycle, but you also have your peptides. You got your GH, your insulin, which all the guys are on now. Before it was just, you're a pro, like you're a top pro, you want to take to that next level. Now these small guys, all the influencers are on them, and now all the new class of peptides, right? So with that, you got the SARMs and everybody stacking everything, and they don't even know how it all works together. The symphony. It would be
No,
like
no,
you,
no, no. Like, dude, I mean, you know, do they work synergistically? They have no idea.
yep,
What are the compounding effects
of
of
course,
compounding these these drugs? Long term type of thing. They don't
yep,
know any of the science or anything. And I mean, some of the peptides I would you're more of an expert than I am, but you know, especially ones that are new, there's no long-term
none.
studies or information on them. So we're just at best guessing
Yep.
at what's going to happen down the line, and we don't know how it's going to interact with what we're already kind of taking. And I think there's also the sense that I get is that taking like the SIMEs and the peptides, people almost treat it as that, well, they're not really steroids, right? So they're a little more not so illegal. They're really
Yep.
they're kind of not so bad because they're
Yep.
not steroids. They're not
Yep.
that. So what are your kind of understanding about that, and what do you find? Do you find that people think they're not as serious as the other ones and a little easier?
I I do, and I think it's because they see these influencers, right? So in the short term, Matt, let's be honest, social media is a highlight. When I have a fight with my wife, I don't go post it on social media. When I have a bad day, I don't go on social media, right? Wow, I've had the crappiest day. A bird flew by and pooped on my head. We see the highlight reel of everybody. You see, like, oh, I look great. Look, I'm with girls at the gym. Like, I have abs. I have this. I have that. But you're not seeing the side effects that a lot of these drugs are having. You're not seeing that. Hey, now this guy he's had super high blood pressure for the last 8 months running this cycle. He's not paying attention to it. Hey, this guy's also doing coke and ecstasy on the weekends and doing
Yeah,
this, and his
yeah,
liver is really taxed.
yeah,
They're
yeah,
not seeing, hey, this guy is maybe miserable, or what this guy that used to post all the time, he hasn't posted in months. Why? Because he came off cycle and now he's miserable because he's got no test in his system, and he's coming off, and his whole identity is tied to this physique.
yeah.
People
And he
don't
doesn't look like he once did. So I mean,
exactly, so people don't see that. So people just see, hey, like he looks great, so I'm going to do it too. He lived, why can't I? And people are not doing the proper research. And I think ultimately, Matt, as long as you're an adult, you can make your own choices. I do. I use PEDs. I like to experiment with myself. But I think something important that so many people don't do nowadays is take responsibility for your own actions. One day down the road, if something were to happen to me because of PED, I'm not going to blame, oh, it's the bodybuilding industry and they normalize it. And no,
yeah,
bro,
yeah, 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 yeah.
I made my own choice to want to do this, and I have to live with my consequences. If I want to eat cheeseburgers every day, one day down the road, I need to live with the consequence that I may have high cholesterol
Yeah,
and no not good health because I decided to eat cheeseburgers every day.
yeah.
So I need to live with that. And I think a lot of people will place that blame on everybody else except for themselves, when in reality, it's like, if you're going to play around with this, you have to be aware this can have long term consequences. Um, can you mitigate a lot of them? Sure, with proper education. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't.
They forego that, and it's too much of a hassle, and
Of
I
course.
don't want to get blood work, and people
Yep.
ask questions and stuff like that, and there's a whole lot of I'll worry about it later,
Yep.
and
Yep.
by the time later comes, it
It's too late.
might not be a pretty later, you know what I
Of
mean?
course.
So, um, Juan, wonderful information. You're a fountain of information, so I appreciate you for that. Um, Totally switching gears, no pun
Yep.
intended. Uh, See what I did there? Um, we've got some Canadian shows coming up
Yep.
that I'm looking forward to. There's the Pure Athletic Classic in Hamilton next week,
Yep. Yep. So that's
or,
gonna
or
be a big
this
show.
weekend. This weekend.
Yep.
Do you know who's there?
Well, I saw that they're gonna have Nick Walker, Sadiq Hadzovic.
Nick
Um,
Walker, Sadiq, freaking Aaron Banks.
there
Who
was
else?
somebody
Who else?
else. Somebody else.
Ian Valair.
Okay.
Uh,
Yep. Yep.
so like, kudos to them. I mean, that's you know, Pure Athletic Classic. Like these guys putting on a clinic here in terms of trying to get names and big people to a show up in Canada, which
Yep.
I'm all about because that's what it used to be like back in the day when I was younger and in the 90s and I was working at Robert Kennedy's Muscle Mag shop, and
Yeah.
we'd actually get pros in and stuff, and so when I saw the Nick do a shout out saying that he's coming up, I was
Yeah.
like
It's
wow.
exciting, man. But I remember
Yeah.
when I first started going to amateur shows, the first amateur show I went to here in Canada, I believe it was 2011 or 2012. And man, we'd have guest posers in the OPA, here in Ontario. Every show would have a famous guest poser.
Yes, yes,
It
yes.
would be,
It was
I
the
remember
norm.
Rolly Winkler came.
Yeah.
Steve Kuklo came to a show in London, I believe it was. I remember seeing Tony Freeman, first show I ever did. Tony Freeman was a guest poser. There was Kai. They had Jay. Like, buddy, like, it was exciting. It's like
Yeah.
you go to a show even if you didn't have friends or family competing, and because you want to see the guest poser. Now nobody does guest posing.
No,
Not even at the pro show in the amateur level. Nothing, man.
no,
Like,
no.
why not grab one of these guys that's competing the next day, get him to do a guest posing?
Sure, maybe some of it's going to be money, right? That the shows, the Canadian shows may not bring in a whole ton of money, so maybe they don't have the budget to uh, pay for something like that. But there's got to be something that they can figure out and do because I mean it's also good for the pros to get themselves out there and to
Exactly.
shake hands and kiss babies type of thing, right? Like these pure athletic guys,
Yeah.
bringing a stacked lineup is phenomenal. So um and then a week after that there's something in
The
Vancouver,
King
right?
Kong. The King. Well, there's the. I'm not sure in Vancouver, but I know that the King Kong's a big show in Ontario. So the King Kong
Okay.
Classic is going to be the weekend after that, and that's a good one, man. That's a real good show as well.
Where's that one taking place?
In Whitby, it's
Whitby,
going to be
okay.
in Whitby. It's in a theater. It's real nice. Um, it's a big show, man. It's a big show. That's typically the big last open show of the year in this area, and there's some great physiques, man. I have a buddy doing it. His name is Flex Chambers. This guy, I'm telling you, Matt, I love the guy. So obviously, this is with respect. If he comes in shape, which has been his biggest struggle in the past, coming in big, full, refreshed, and in condition, this guy could turn pro tomorrow.
Oh, exciting. Nice.
He's huge, and he would be a great 212. He would be a great 212 right away. He's a monster. For me, in bodybuilding, what's the hard part? Building the muscle. If you have the muscle, anybody can get in condition, Matt. I truly believe that.
Yeah.
Some have to suffer more than others, but you can get in condition. The hard part's building the muscle. This guy's got the muscle. This guy, how I said, if he turned pro tomorrow, he would do well in the 212 stage. Whereas majority of guys who are turning pro, whether it be like if they want to compete in open or 212, they still need to take years off to put on some size. Not this guy. So it should be exciting, man,
He's right there.
to see how he's doing.
Yeah.
I have a client doing it as well. His name's Juan. Actually, it's his first open show, so he's excited about that.
Nice,
So
nice,
yeah,
nice.
it should be a good time, man.
Yeah, I think we're finishing strong for the year
Yep.
in Canada. We got some good shows. November 1st, I think, is the Extreme Promotions Vancouver Fall Classic Open Regional.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So I know they always put on a good show too, so I'm excited to see that. And yeah, I think it's been a solid year for the Canadian shows, and I'm excited to see what next year is going to bring.
Well, next year should be an interesting one, Matt. I'm not sure if you're keeping up with this much or not. I call it the apocalypse because there's a major worldwide shortage, and we can touch on this in a future episode of the raw powders for anabolics that are not coming out of China. So now all of us bodybuilders are struggling getting things like Mastron, Primobolan. I hear rumors of other compounds that won't be around anymore. Now, this is going to directly affect how the competitors are looking. Because if it was just one or two competitors, it's different. You just figure out they came off, they don't look in shape. But when the whole lineup has the potential to look a little bit different, well, I wonder what that's going to end up looking.
Okay, well, so guys, we're going to freeze on that because that is absolutely a perfect cliffhanger, and we're going to talk about the supply chains drying up on your favorite anabolics, and are the bodybuilders going to look a lot different next year in 2026? That one is one hell of an idea. So, see what I
The
did there?
apocalypse, man. Get ready, get in your bunker, stock up, freaking pray to say your prayers, take your vitamins, because when the apocalypse comes, man, we don't want to end up skinny.
You don't want to end up skinny. We'll leave it there. Juan, thanks for joining me. Appreciate it as always. And guys, like and subscribe as always. And we appreciate you, and we'll catch you on the next one.